attention please, ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues. Thanks very much for coming to this event tonight. A rally that has been long anticipated, I think it's fair to say, by all of us. And by a series of events, we have possibly ended up with the best possible candidate that we could have chosen.
Yeah.
I hope it's not lost on many of you, certainly my friends from Bolton, that we've chosen this venue because it's significant.
It is.
In these parts, the local fans have a song, and it goes, "They all laugh at us, they all mock at us, they all say our days are numbered." Well, to use Nigel's terminology, they aren't laughing now. Because we had a wonderful result this year, and now is the time to take UKIP into the next stage. Tonight we're joined not only by Paul, but by Peter Whittle, who's made the long journey up from London. I'd like to give him a round of applause. And also to Bill Etheridge, who's made the journey from the Midlands. We have a fantastic opportunity in the northwest of England, and when I was at the regional chairs meeting last week, I can assure you all that the party is very conscious of the significance of the northwest and how it will be a key battleground in the coming years, certainly in the next election. When Paul and I spoke about 18 months ago, he made it very clear that even though the referendum was going to be very important to us, that the real time for UKIP was 2020. And I believe that. I believe that we can win seats in the northwest, that we have some great people, that we have a great team, great branches, and in Bolton in particular, it's a model of how to do things, representing the local people, getting their issues out, and that's what we need for local politics. UKIP represents an area where in lots of places the Tories cannot get to. The only alternative to Labour, and they are very conscious of it, even though they still don't listen to the voters, is the northwest. So tonight we have the next opportunity, a very exciting opportunity, and a huge challenge for our leader. But the man that is hopefully going to take this mantle forward is without question the best candidate. He will unify the party like no other candidate can. He will bring together all the factions. There is no left and right, there is only right. And the way to go forward is with Paul Nuttall.
Yeah.
Our first speaker tonight himself was one of the leadership candidates in the first leadership challenge, and he has very gracefully bowed out now to offer his support wholeheartedly to Paul. So I'd like you to give a warm welcome to Mr. Bill Etheridge.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
Right, lots of familiar faces. Many of you I've met before on various occasions, campaigning and in that previous leadership campaign. And let me tell you, when I heard that Paul was going to stand this time, and I thought to myself, thank God. Thank God, at last we've got someone who's going to stand, who we can all believe in, we can all trust. Every wing of the party, whatever your views, whatever your background, wherever you come from, we can all get behind Paul. He's a great bloke. There's no doubt about that. And it was the best news I've had in a very, very long time when I heard he was going to stand. That was about 5 years ago when I first met Paul Nuttall. And back then, I was just an activist, doing my best to make a name of the party, I was out there leafleting, knocking doors as best I could, working hard, like I'm sure all of us do. This guy came and helped. Everywhere where we were, when we needed help in the West Midlands, an area that was down in the doldrums, an area where, for one reason or another, we'd had infighting, we'd had problems. One man came and helped us and supported us through every step of the way, every venue you can imagine. All we had to do was pick up the phone, and there was never any doubt Paul Nuttall will be there to help us. And believe me, in the West Midlands, we've never forgotten that. And I can assure Paul tonight, and all of you, that our man is going to get a massive, massive support in the West Midlands. So we're with you. West Midlands and the North West are united on this one. He is our man. During that time when I was with Paul and we were campaigning, we actually got to a point where it led up to the 2014 European elections, and we did have a bit of a running joke that we were a double act. We must have done, I don't know, 15 or 20 speeches together, all around the country. And I got used to being his warm-up man, so this is not unusual. But I'm quite glad that Peter's in the middle of us, because it's always, you know, I don't like to be the one who's immediately compared to him, because when he brings out the thunder, it's hard to match. But working together, I got to know him so well. And his heart is with this party and its activists. He's not a man who does this because he cares about position or because of his personal ambition. He doesn't tune into the television and think, oh, I was on the telly today, what do I look like? Let's freeze frame it, have a look. Like some others may. He doesn't do that. What Paul does is he thinks what's best for our activists or what's best for our party. That's why he's standing now. And that's the kind of commitment and the kind of heart that we need now more than ever. And he is wonderful for that. And the times when we've worked together and I learned so much, and then I got elected. And we went out to Brussels together. And again, when all of us new MEPs were out there, who could we turn to? Who was there to help us? An honest friend, always there. The then deputy leader, the man we could turn to. If we'd done something right, or if we'd done something wrong, he'd give us an honest appraisal. He'd be there for us to help us out the mire. Believe me, and this may come as a surprise, but I've dropped 1 or 2 cops. and during that time, when you need a strong friend to back you up, who was there? Paul Nuttall. Always. There were times when I thought, you know, the world was going to fall in. Who was the first phone call? Paul Nuttall. So we've got a good man here. And I'll tell you another little story about him. Because many of the faces I know from here will remember a coach tour that we did. And we had a coach that was all the many MEPs' faces on it. It was the Brexit coach. Yeah. And we went through the West Midlands and into the North West. There's some fantastic memories in the North West of places and people who will remember from that time. I went behind the bar, one place. This is unusual for me to be that side of the bar. But then coach stop at a pub where we had a very entertaining night after some hard work. And I can tell you, at every step of the way on that tour, who was leading the way? Who was there, first of all, talking to the people? Who was there, first of all, backing us up? Who was there, first of all, when we had problems with Labour activists and other unsavoury kinds trying to stop us? Who was there at every step when there was a difficulty? And who was there first to the bar to get the drinking going? We worked hard together, and this is a guy who I've got to know both socially and through work. I can honestly say to all of you, and so many of the faces I know and I've spoken to and I've got to know in this neck of the woods, you know it already. But it's a real pleasure for me. When Paul picked up the phone to me and said he'd like me to come and speak, well, yes, where, how long, it's a pleasure. This is a man who will lead us. We'll all have no problem with it. The party will unite. They'll bring us together. It may come as a surprise due to my cuddly and soft demeanour, but some people think I'm a hardliner. I don't know why they think that. But I know that this is a man right in the centre of the party, right in the centre of opinion, and he'll bring us all together. And I know that it's going to be a great success. So you watch. From when the massive score comes in and Paul's won, from that point onwards, you watch our party grow. You watch our electoral success grow. You watch our confidence grow. Because there will be a man who brings all of the best of our talents to the forefront. A man who wants to see his colleagues do well. And a man who's just as easy going out in the streets campaigning, putting a leaflet through a door, as he is on national TV. We could have no better leader. And I could have no better friend. And that man, Paul Nuttall, and I am so honoured to be here tonight. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the evening. It's great to see you all. So let's remember, Whittle Paul.
Just before I introduce our next speaker, I'd like to say that we will be doing a Q&A session at the end, but we'll do that at the end when Paul's finished his speech. Our next guest tonight, as I said, has come a very long way to be here. He's been in the London Assembly this afternoon, and he's travelled especially to support Paul, and I think that gives an indication of the widespread support throughout the country and throughout the branches of how much affection and esteem that Paul is held in. So our next guest is the former candidate for London Mayor. He's also a member of the London Assembly. Please welcome Mr. Peter Whittle.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, do you know, this morning, before I came, we were in the London Assembly. I don't really know much about the London Assembly. It's the most powerless assembly there is in the country. But I'm very confident to be on it. But we were discussing the Notting Hill Carnival and what should be done about it, because of course there were some possible deaths there. This last one we just had, just avoided at the last minute. It was all about security. But we have a sort of just a scrutinising role there in the London Assembly. But so in some ways it's rather like the European Parliament, I suppose, in many ways. But also like the European Parliament, it is an absolutely invaluable way to put UKIP's voice across on a platform. Because in London there's myself and David Curtin, and we're the first UKIP members there for 12 years now. And basically, because we're the only London representatives, apart from obviously our great Gerard Patron, we get a lot of media, we get disproportionate media. And I'm very happy with that, because it means that we can get our voices and UKIP's voice out there in the media. But basically, as was said earlier, you know, I stood for mayor in London, and I have to say, I don't want to embarrass Paul with all the compliments he's going to have tonight, but he was so supportive in London of my mayoral campaign. And of course, you know, everyone was saying, oh, they won't get anything and all the rest of it. And we had a huge success with the London campaign. And I'm extremely grateful for Paul's support, actually, during that time. As you might know, I have put my name forward this time for the leadership, and did some hustings last week. And there were 4 of us. I won't mention the donkey in the room. Actually, I will mention it. But there's that guy, and obviously Suzanne and Paul. And what became very, very clear to me was the level of enthusiasm and optimism and the desire for unity that was palpable in London and then in Wales. And I would say again here tonight with this amazing turnout. So I decided that basically there's no question about it in my mind that Paul is the man. and I didn't want to complicate issues or anything like that. I wanted to put my support fully behind him. And there's no question about it. Since I've been in the party, which is nothing like as long as him, 4 years, he's been a friend. And he is, to me, the beating heart of UKIP. And that's what we need now. Because we might have had a fantastic victory this year, which nobody can take away from us, even if they try at the moment, as they are. The history books will not take that away from us. But we have to go on for the next 4 years, 5 years, 10 years. So you might say, we had a peak this year we were all working towards, and that was Brexit. And so the media is saying to us, well, you know, in that case, there's no point to you anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, I would say that there is more point than ever, and this is something which I know Paul grasps absolutely. And I would say as well that I've been completely inspired by the sort of things he has said over the past 3-4 years that I've been a member, and indeed the things he's written in his various columns. He's actually stuck his neck out there with very, very difficult issues, which we are going to have to be the party to speak about in the coming 4 years. So first of all, I would say that what we have to do is build towards 2020. That's our new peak. We have got to get representation in 2020, the general election. We have got to become the voice of patriotic working people in this country, everywhere. It's absolutely clear to me that Labour despise the people that they once looked for support. They are contemptuous of them. Do you remember the famous tweet that Emily Thornberry put out, the England flag? Just outside house, I think it was in the Rochester by-election. And the fact is she didn't even add any words to it. It was just in her world, it was enough to show this. Look at this, right? There is an utter contempt for patriotism. There's an utter contempt for ordinary people. And this is the most amazing opportunity for us. And there is no question, and that's why we're all here, that Paul is the man, absolutely to take us forward, if we do indeed want to become that voice of ordinary, patriotic working people. And similarly, I'd say to you, coming in the next 4 years, we are going to have to be the party, because none of the others will. We have to be the party that stands up for British values and institutions. So what that means is British law is supreme. I know Paul realises because I've read his column. I've seen him speaking. He understands that the most important issues of our time are cultural ones in a way. They're about British culture, right? We have to be the party that says no to Sharia law. We have to be the party as well that basically says we are a country of free speech, right? Where we should have the ability to offend if we want to offend.
Yes.
We should have the ability to mock if we want to mock. And we should not be the kind of country where a young gymnast mucking about on video, mocking Islam, finds that he's got no career at the end of it. I say all this because I am not grandstanding for myself. The fact is, I know, and one of the reasons I absolutely came in for Paul last week, he understands all of these compelling issues of our time. Of course, Brexit has to mean Brexit, but these are new challenges that we have really got to take on. And I feel proud, actually, to be supporting a man who understands this, I would say, better than any senior member of this party. So without further ado, I'd like to take this, I'm proud to take this opportunity to introduce to you the next leader of UKIP, Mr. Paul Nuttall.
Thank you very much, everyone, and what an amazing turnout we have here tonight in Bolton. Before I start, I'd like to thank James for the introductions, Bill for a fantastic speech, and of course Peter, who stood down this week in the leadership election and kindly endorsed me. Up to all, I'd like to thank you guys for coming along here tonight, and of course all of the people who are watching this on the live stream on Facebook. Why Bolton? Well, Bolton is in my region, the region I've led now for nearly a decade. Bolton because the party decided that it wasn't going to give the North West a hustings, and therefore we decided that you guys deserved something as well. But more so Bolton because it's a place where we're getting it right. We have 5 people, 5 councillors elected onto Bolton Council. These guys are practising pavement politics. They are engaging with their local community. And indeed the Bolton branch is a beacon of light to UKIP branches, not only across the North West, but the whole of the north of England. And we should be very proud of what they're achieving. And if they continue on this upward trajectory, they will win a seat in Westminster in 2020. Of that, I am sure. Bolton is also a microcosm of what is going on within the party. You hear people say that UKIP is in decline, political commentators and indeed certain people who say we're on a death spiral. Nothing could be further from the truth. 2 opinion polls this week had our party on 13%. Our membership is at 33,000. We have an MP. We have 21 MEPs, 3 members of the House of Lords, 500 councillors working hard across the country, and we are the only party that has representation in all 4 corners of our kingdom. UKIP is going from strength to strength, but it can be bigger, it can be stronger, and it can be better. Ladies and gentlemen, and I'm saying this now not just to you guys, but those watching on Facebook, if you want the infighting to continue, then I am not your candidate. I am standing to bring this party together. I believe in unity. I believe that our cause is bigger than any personalities. I want to see us say bygones are bygones. I want to put what's gone on internally over the past couple of months in a box called the past. I want to build a team of all talents, where all talents are utilised and people are not marginalised. I want to see November the 28th, when a new leader is elected, I want to see it be day 0, a new beginning for our party. Because make no mistake, the last few months have taken this party to the edge of a political cliff. It will either step off or step back. And I believe, with my experience, I am the best candidate to encourage the party to step back, because we have a fantastic future. UKIP for 12 years. In that time, I've stood in 5 local elections, 2 European elections, 3 general elections, and a parliamentary by-election. I have done almost every role at the top of this party, bar the leadership. And like you, I have also been a branch chairman as well. I became the party chairman in 2008, when we faced our last existential crisis. We were on 0% in the opinion polls. Within a year, we had beaten Gordon Brown's Labour government into 3rd place in the European elections of 2009. I had been Nigel's deputy for 6 years. I was the party's head of policy between 2011 and 2013. And I continue to lead the UKIP MEPs in the European Parliament. In that time, we have had many successes, and I am as proud as Punch at what we have achieved. Let's just think about it. In 2014, we became the first political party in this country to win a national election. That wasn't the Labour Party or the Conservatives since 1906. We got 4 million votes at the general election the following year. And the greatest achievement of all is through our success at the ballot box, we forced David Cameron, the then Prime Minister, to offer a referendum he never wanted to see. And as a result, we have gone on, through your hard work, the activists who've gone out and delivered leaflets and manned street stalls, we have ensured that we have won that referendum, and we now are on the edge of leaving a corrupt, sclerotic European Union. But the job is not done. Indeed, Winston Churchill once said, "This may not be the beginning of the end, but it may be the end of the beginning." The country needs UKIP more than ever before. You only have to see what happened on Thursday, when High Court judges have pitted Parliament and parliamentarians against the people. And you hear people like Nick Clegg and Ed Miliband talk about the value of parliamentary sovereignty. Yet they didn't talk about parliamentary sovereignty when we were handing over laws to Brussels for the past 48 years. It didn't matter then, did it? But suddenly it matters now. This is a charade, ladies and gentlemen. It is an effort designed to, one, water down Brexit and ensure that we stay in the single market. That is not acceptable. Freedom of movement. And they say the people didn't know what they were voting for on June the 23rd. Well, it was quite clear. Vote Leave and Leave.eu made it perfectly clear in their literature. It was about taking back control. Control of our borders. Control of our own money. We don't want to be paying a £55 million membership fee to be members of this club. And control of our own laws. We want 100% of our laws made in Westminster by people we elect. Yeah. We, as UKIP, need to remain a strong electoral force, because if we don't, they will backslide. These people cannot be trusted on this issue, and we need to stay in the game, grow in membership, grow in the opinion polls, win more council seats, win parliamentary by-elections, and bound on and win seats in the House of Commons in 2020, because we need to ensure Brexit really does mean Brexit.
Yep.
And I am coming to the conclusion, actually, that Article 50 itself is little more than a delaying tactic. Because whilst we're in negotiation for 2 years, what goes on? We still have to pay a membership fee. They still hand down directives and regulations. We still have open borders to 450 million people. Wouldn't it just be simpler if we just simply repealed the 1972 European... And on that level, I have appointed, if I'm elected, Gerard Batten as our Brexit spokesman in this country here on in. Mrs May is having a honeymoon period. It all seems to be going well at the moment, but it's all talk and little action. Her record as Home Secretary is appalling. Take immigration. She talked tough for 5 years on immigration, but on her watch we had open borders. The numbers of people coming into this country actually went up and not down. In 2015 alone, a city the size of Newcastle came to this country, and we know what happens as a result. Wages are driven down in working class communities, and many working class people are put out of work. I'm sorry, when UKIP says it wants to see British people put at the front of the queue in the job market, unlike Mrs May, we mean it. Mrs May will talk the talk, but unfortunately in the end, she will not walk the walk. And then UKIP will be there at her heels, and we will be there to pick up the pieces. We have a fantastic opportunity also in Labour heartlands. You have a Labour Party now that has abandoned working class people. A Labour Party whose shadow Foreign Secretary sneers at our flag. A leader that refuses to sing our national anthem, and a shadow chancellor that has said nice things about the IRA. They are more comfortable debating the issues that surround the Islington dinner party. Issues like Palestine, man-made global warming, or increasing the foreign aid budget. They do not talk about the issues that really matter to working people. And look, politics is about empathy. In the days of Clement Attlee, your Labour MPs came from the mines, or the factories, or the docks. This lot are a bunch of middle-class intellectuals who wouldn't know a council house if it fell off. We can move into these communities and we can replace the Labour Party once and for all as the sensible, patriotic voice of working people. And how can we do this? Well, we need policies that resonate with working people. We need to be the policy of aspiration and social mobility. We need to be the policy that advocate education by ability and not wealth. Working class kids deserve the same opportunity as middle class kids. We need to be the party where sentences mean what they say. The party of the victim and not the criminal. We need to be the party that makes sure that our money and our taxation is spent here in our country. And the best place to start is by slashing the foreign aid budget and ensuring that the 9,000 servicemen who will sleep up tonight have a bed to sleep in. We need to be the party that ensures that we have proper border controls. And when we say we want British jobs for British workers. We will follow through. We need to be the outriders on big issues. UKIP is at its best when it is being radical. We must look at constitutional change. We must look at an English Parliament. We must look at an elected House of Lords. And finally, we must be the party that has the courage to tackle the issues that other parties will not touch. We must stand up and say that female genital mutilation is not acceptable in this country. Forced marriage is not acceptable in this country. Sharia courts are not acceptable. We must also be a party that targets and drills down in local communities. We must ensure we get more councillors elected. Council chambers are the Trojan horse to Westminster. You look at what's going on here in Bolton. You look at what's going on in Hartlepool and in places like Thurrock and Clacton. These are seats we can win in 2020, and we will use the council chambers as our base. I am standing in this election as the unity candidate. I'm doing so because I sat there over the summer in horror and growing incredulity, watching the party I love and the party which I've helped grow from nothing fall to pieces. I felt that it was my duty to step in, steady the ship, take us on, ensure that Brexit means real Brexit, ensure that we win more seats in council chambers, ensure that we win parliamentary by-elections, and ensure that we win seats at the general election in 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, UKIP's future is bright, but for that to be the case, UKIP must unite. Thank you.
Thanks all. We're now going to have a series of questions from the floor. If we can take them in a reasonable order. Paul is going to come up and answer your questions for the next 30 minutes. Let's say 20. Okay. Can I have any questions from the floor, please? Yes, sir.
I'm Paul Nuttall, North Manchester. I'm from Wales originally, and I was overjoyed when Wales voted to have an assembly because it took power from the establishment and gave it directly to the people of Wales. And I'm very happy, of course, to mention, as part of your speech, you mentioned around the country we're represented. We now have 7 assembly members in the Welsh Assembly. You mentioned an English Parliament. Surely one of the biggest democratic deficits in this country right now is that the devolved countries, the countries around the UK, all have devolved assemblies except for England. England is being left behind. What practical measures will UKIP put forward? What pressure will UKIP put forward to make sure that we have a real working English Parliament for English people?
Well, I was initially opposed to devolution. I thought it would lead to the breakup of the union, which we all love. The union which has really given us peace and prosperity for the past 300 years. That isn't the European Union, by the way. In fact, Tony Blair was also opposed to devolution, but had been handed the baby by John Smith and couldn't get out of it. But the problem was, when devolution occurred, Scotland got its Parliament, Wales got its Assembly, of course Northern Ireland is a special case with Stormont. But the English got absolutely nothing. And now we have a situation whereby Scottish MPs and Welsh and Northern Irish MPs can vote on English issues in the House of Commons, but our MPs cannot vote on devolved issues in the respective assemblies and parliaments. The union needs to be rebalanced. It's under attack, particularly from Scotland. And if you look at opinion polls in England, it is quite clear that there is a rise of English patriotism, that there is a rise of a feeling of Englishness. And people are beginning to understand that they are being unfairly treated, whether that is financially or whether that is in terms of the democratic deficit. Something has to change. Something has to give. Because if it doesn't, then this union will not be here by the middle of this century. And the only way we can save it, I believe, is by going down the line, and some people mightn't like this, of a fully federal UK. It was proposed 100 years ago by the then Prime Minister, Herbert Asquith. It wasn't taken up. It may well have kept the Irish within the UK. We made a mistake back then. Let's not make the same mistake again. Let's have an English Parliament. Let's have an English First Minister. But then also, let's have a federal chamber where the British Prime Minister sits and we deal with non-devolved issues like foreign policy and defence. And if you want to be really radical about this, the chambers already exist. The House of Commons could in effect become an English Parliament, where you have English MPs elected on a proportional representation basis. And the Lords itself can become the federal chamber. I know it's radical, but UKIP is at its best when it is radical. UKIP has to lead on these issues and not follow, because I guarantee the other parties are thinking at the moment about these ideas, because they know we are rushing headlong into a constitutional crisis, and I believe we should be the outriders, we should be the thinkers, because if we put things on the table, other parties follow. Let me give you one example of this. 10 years ago, we spoke about an Australian-style points-based system for immigration. We were called racists, xenophobes, and all the rest of it. It is now government policy for non-EU migrants. We have led, they have followed, and on the issue of an English Parliament, I believe we should lead again.
Gentleman in the glasses, please.
Jack Thompson from Lee Branch. I, like everybody in this room, and a lot of people throughout the country, endorse everything that you're saying. To my mind, the biggest problem we have with getting the message out is media control and the way that the media presents things. Is there anything that we can do, or any plans in hand, to counterbalance that media bias?
Well, of course, we have a free press, and newspapers, for example, are free to take a political line. They are affiliated to different political parties. You have the Telegraph and the Mail, who are affiliated generally on a conservative line of thinking. You have the Guardian and the Mirror, who generally support the Labour Party. What my issue is, and I know they're here tonight, Stuart, I have an issue with the BBC. I apologise to Stuart right now. But the problem is this. I think the BBC is too big. It's unwieldy. I think it needs to be reduced in size. I know Nigel said during the general election that he would like to see the BBC concentrate on news and maybe outsource other programmes. Actually, I would do the opposite. I think the BBC is very good at Doctor Who and very good at EastEnders and all these popular programmes. Where I have a problem is when I wake up and I get spoon-fed left-wing bias. I think the BBC should be cut in size. I think there should be a massive reduction in the licence fee. And then if the BBC didn't behave from there on in, well, who knows? If it's so good, why can't it compete with ITV, Sky and everything else in a free market? But reduce it in size first, and then let's take it from there.
The EU has an impact on every facet of our ordinary lives. What would you do post-Brexit to the VAT on domestic fuel, landfill tax, which means we've got weekly big elections, second, third, or every fourth week, and all the wonderful things that the EU does for ordinary people's lives?
Was that landfill tax and VAT? Well, the key point is that we haven't been able to do anything about these things because of EU directives and regulations. Once we leave the European Union, and if Brexit means real Brexit, and not some mealy-mouthed version, where we end up still in the single market, members of the EEA, the European Economic Area, and we end up like Norway, a fax democracy, whereby we have to comply with EU regulations and directives, but we don't necessarily have any influence over them. I think we should have a clean Brexit, a clean cut, whereby we have a free trade deal with our European partners and we're friends and we get along and we trade, but we're not dictated to, and therefore we then have the power to cut VAT, or indeed we could do away with it altogether and have a local sales tax. We can do away with landfill taxes. We can be free once again, free to set our own taxes, free to control our own borders, free to make our own laws, and free to control our own finances. The future is bright outside the European Union. Project Fear has not worked, will not work, and we will be a beacon of light to the rest of Europe, Schnee, because next, as a result of Brexit, you'll have Nexit when the Netherlands leave, Swexit when the Swedish leave, Nexit when the Danish leave.
Yes, sir, you're at the back.
Hi, Martin Tide, Bolton branch. Your views on crime and punishment are well documented. Would you support the introduction of a so-called Sarah's Law, so we as parents of young children can find out where monsters live, and put an end to also this can't be named for legal reasons for perpetrators after a crime has been committed?
I've supported Sarah's Law from the very beginning, okay? And my views on that are absolutely out there for everyone to see. I know you've mentioned my views on crime and punishment, and that will no doubt go back to the fact that in 2011 I signed a petition for the reintroduction of the death penalty for child killers. And I make absolutely no apology for signing that petition, because I do not see why my hard work or taxation is spent keeping people like Ian Brady and Ian Huntley in relatively nice surroundings. I'm sorry, I just don't buy that whatsoever. But I want to make it clear, this will not be UKIP policy. UKIP's policy on issues of conscience is that we would hold referendums if a certain amount of people signed a petition. Direct democracy. It works well in Switzerland, it could work well in this country as well. There is nothing wrong with trusting the views of the people. We proved that with Brexit. But what I will say, in the UKIP manifestos of the past, the threshold to trigger a national referendum has been 5%. I will probably up that to 10% to ensure that there was no frivolous topics that could trigger that a referendum could be triggered on, and there would be a short period of time in which to trigger that referendum. But I have absolutely no problem whatsoever in listening to the people. The government is elected by the people. It should listen to the people and not dictate to them.
Harris, the Young Independent Representative Skipton Ripley. Now, you've said that you're the unity candidate. What specifically would you do to try and get these various factions in the party to come together and to talk to us and to cooperate?
Well, it's quite simple, really. You lead. You lead. You know, some people have said that I'm too weak to be the UKIP leader. I don't lack sufficient steel. Some of my colleagues have said you're too nice to be the UKIP leader. But I'm sorry, I'm not. What I'm doing is showing steel. It would have been easy for me, easy, to choose one faction or the other, and then root out and throw out the other faction. The strong thing to do is to say you want to bring everyone together. And that is what I will do. I will get people into a room. We will thrash it out. I will make appointments from both sides of the debate. UKIP is bigger than any personality. The cause is bigger than any personality. We don't just owe it. We just don't owe it to ourselves in UKIP to unite. We just don't owe it to the 4 million people who voted UKIP in 2015. We owe it to the 17.4 million people who voted for Brexit. And as I said before, I'm doing this out of duty. I genuinely feared last month that this party, something I've given my life to, may well not be here this time next year. And I've stepped in to ensure that we just don't continue, but we grow and we go from strength to strength. It can happen. People must let bygones be bygones. We must set aside what's gone before, because the opportunities are endless for this party. But as I said earlier, the future is bright, but only if we unite. We must come together. And the one thing which I have found and learned from travelling around the country and doing these hustings is that there is an appetite for unity out there. And what happened in the European Parliament about a month ago was probably in the long run the best thing that could have happened to the party. Because although at the time it made us look shambolic, people then woke up, smelt the coffee, realised we are in an existential crisis, and if we don't come together, it will be game over. UKIP has open goals, but it has to be on the pitch to kick the ball in the net, and I am the candidate to ensure UKIP stays on that pitch.
Yes, the gentleman there, right at the back, please.
James, there's one over there as well.
Hi Paul, Calvin Chapman from Manchester. Last year when I stood in the parliamentary contest for Stretford Nermston, I had to spend 6,000 of my own money. How are you going to change the party so that we actually start bringing in money, so that we can run the campaigns we want to, so that we can have the party that we need? At the minute, we don't have the money coming in. What are you going to do that's different?
Okay, firstly, let me just say this. The horror stories that you're reading in the press at the moment, that UKIP is somehow broke or in financial dire straits, I've read somewhere that we're £800,000 in debt. None of it is true. The party is on a sound financial footing. I have guarantees from the party's biggest donors that we are financially secure moving forward. They realise the importance of a strong, electorally viable UKIP. These are people who've campaigned for years to get out the European Union. And although we do have Brexit, they want to ensure we get the right Brexit, and they do not trust Theresa May or Jeremy Corbyn or Tim Farron or any of the establishment political parties to deliver what we want, and therefore they are committed to funding our party in the foreseeable future, and a statement will be going out very soon indeed. So do not worry, do not worry. The party will be on the pitch, and it will be financed heavily, and we will go from strength to strength.
It's Matthew James from UKIP Leadership Hustings. My question would be, how are we going to make the north of UKIP stronger? Because I'll be honest with you, you know, a lot of members sometimes feel it's kind of London central, you know, it's centred around London area. Yeah. Up in the north area, we're absolutely strong around the Labour area, and the Labour are collapsing at the moment. But we feel like we're not hitting them hard enough, we're not getting out there enough. We need the help. I'm just wondering, where would you know, boost that in the north?
Well, maybe if you elected a northern leader, it might help. Seriously, I think there are a number of things internally we need to look at. I think the membership fee needs to be reduced. Yeah. Because I think in many working class communities it precludes people from becoming members of our party. We need to ensure the membership grows. It's 33,000 now. If we get this right in terms of membership, if we look at improving how we do things online, you know, within a year we could have 60, 70,000 members. You know, this year, by the way, and I'm not going to gild the lily here, has been absolutely appalling in terms of membership. We lost members during the year of an EU referendum, right? Why has that happened? It's simple. People don't join divided parties. People don't give money to divided parties. People don't vote for divided parties. If we bring everyone together, membership will rise substantially. That 13% in the opinion polls will turn to 20%. We'll do fantastic in the Sleaford by-election on December the 8th. We'll go on. We'll win council seats in May this year, and we will march on confident in 2020. But the best thing you can do to ensure UKIP grows in the north and we take on Labour is, do you know what? Elect a northern leader who sounds, acts and looks like them.
Mark Bradley from Lee Branch. I've served 23 years in the Royal Navy, and after Labour led us into the financial crash that we went into, I watched my pay stagnate for years. Is there any scope for UKIP coming up with a policy that will link the pay of the armed forces to that of politicians, so that if politicians
Firstly, of course, we have our defence spokesman at the back up there. Give a wave, Michael. Former para. I was going to make a joke. Look, we in UKIP need to become the party of the armed forces. We need to stand by the military covenant. Yeah. We need to get the 9,000 ex-servicemen who will sleep rough tonight off the street. to meet our NATO commitments, we need to increase defence spending because the world is a pretty perilous place at this moment in time. But you know, the one thing that we have to do as well is not interfere in foreign wars that are not in our national interest. I've been on this line for a long time now. I was opposed to the war in Iraq because, to me, it made absolutely no sense whatsoever to do away with a dictator, an evil and cruel dictator, but one who was keeping a lid on Islamic fundamentalism. It was the same in Libya. Is Libya necessarily a safer place now than it was under Gaddafi? Of course it isn't. No, the official government of Libya have to meet on a boat off the coast of Tobruk because Tripoli is overrun with Islamic fundamentalists. I was one of the first politicians in Britain to go out on Question Time in February 2012 and say we should have nothing to do with what's going on in Syria. But of course, the know-it-alls in Westminster, your Malcolm Rifkins and whatnot, said no, what we have to do is we have to remove the Assad regime and we have to arm these cuddly rebels. They didn't have a clue who these rebels were. And it turns out they are the Al-Nusra Front, the Syrian Mujahideen, which is linked to Al-Qaeda. It's Islamic State. And I put it to you that these people are more of a threat to global peace than President Assad or indeed President Putin. Okay? The real cancer in the world that has to be cut out, and one that we're going to have to face in this century, is Islamic fundamentalism. We will be the party, under my leadership, the party of the armed forces, and we not only will look after lads and girls who are in the armed forces at this present moment in time, we will ensure they are looked after when they leave. Right.
We'll leave the last question to the lady in the second row, please.
Come on,
Hi,
Linda.
Paul. It's not a question, it's just a concern. There's a lot of negativity about it at the moment over UKIP, saying that our aim was to get us out of the union, which we'd succeeded in, and now we haven't got a focus.
Okay? Do we have a focus now we're outside the EU? We're not outside the EU. That's the key. And if UKIP didn't exist, I bet my bottom dollar we would not get the Brexit that we want or need. Therefore, we have to be on the pitch. We have to be at the heels of this Conservative government. We have to kick out Labour Remainers in 2020. But most of all, we need a new policy platform. Okay, the 2015 manifesto was excellent. It was the best manifesto out of all of the political parties. Indeed, this just goes to show how things have changed whilst I've been in UKIP. When I joined in 2004, I would argue that we as a party were pretty much an anti-EU pressure group. We've moved and we've morphed into a fully fledged political party. So much so that our 2015 manifesto was the first in political history to be signed off by an economic think tank who said, unlike the Tories, unlike Labour, unlike the Lib Dems, all your sums add up. You can do this. But we still need to be about the issues that we have to tackle. We have to campaign hard in local communities. There are issues such as HS2, a white elephant which is going to cost this country £80 billion. It's a nonsense. We must campaign against issues like that. I believe we must campaign for an English Parliament. We must be the party that say that the National Health Service is a national health service and not an international health service. We have to be the party that says the foreign aid budget, which is costing this country £25 million every single day, should be cut drastically, and we shouldn't be giving countries money who are richer than ourselves. Brazil, India with its own space programme has more millionaires and billionaires than ourselves. That's our money, and it should be spent here, in our country, on our soil. We must become the party of the military. We must become a party that says, as I've said, we don't want to involve ourselves in foreign wars that are not in our national interest. We must be the party that say we want real controls on immigration, not the mealy-mouthed version that Mrs May will give us, and we remember her record as Home Secretary. And most of all, and I feel passionately about this, we must be the party that stands up for the victims of crime and not the human rights or so-called human rights. So overall, we have a great future. UKIP has done fantastic in the first half of this decade. It can do even better in the second. We must come together. We must reorganise. We must restructure the party internally. We must get into those council chambers, win those seats, perform well in parliamentary by-elections, target for 2020 sensibly, and start campaigning now. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming to listen to me tonight.
Right.
I hope I have your vote.
Yes.
I'd like to finish by thanking you on behalf of the North West region for attending tonight. Your support's been fantastic. I think it's been a great evening. I think we've got a lot to look forward to, and I'd like us to show our appreciation to Bill and to Peter for attending. May I have your attention, please, ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues. Thanks very much for coming to this event tonight. A rally that has been long anticipated, I think it's fair to say, by all of us. And by a series of events, we have possibly ended up with the best possible candidate that we could have chosen. I hope it's not lost on many of you, certainly my friends from Bolton, that we've chosen this venue because it's significant.
It is.
In these parts, the local fans have a song, and it goes, "They all laugh at us, they all mock at us, they all say our days are numbered." Well, to use Nigel's terminology, they aren't laughing now. Because we had a wonderful result this year, and now is the time to take UKIP into the next stage. Tonight we're joined not only by Paul, but by Peter Whittle, who's made the long journey up from London. I'd like to give him a round of applause. And also to Bill Etheridge, who's made the journey from the Midlands. We have a fantastic opportunity in the northwest of England. And when I was at the regional chairs meeting last week, I can assure you all that the party is very conscious of the significance of the northwest and how it will be a key battleground in the coming year.
And in that previous leadership campaign. And let me tell you, when I heard that Paul was going to stand this time, and I thought to myself, thank God, thank God, at last we've got someone who's going to stand who we can all believe in, we can all trust. Every wing of the party, whatever your views, whatever your background, wherever you come from, we can all get behind Paul. He's a great bloke. There's no doubt about that. And it was the best news I've had in a very, very long time when I heard he was going to stand. That was about 5 years ago when I first met Paul Nuttall. And back then, I was just an activist, doing my best to make a name of the party. I was out there leafleting, knocking doors as best I could, working hard, like I'm sure all of us do. This guy came and helped. Everywhere where we were, when we needed help in the West Midlands, an area that was down in the doldrums, an area where, for one reason or another, we'd had infighting, we'd had problems. One man came and helped us and supported us through every step of the way, every venue you can imagine. All we had to do was pick up the phone, and there was never any doubt Paul Nuttall will be there to help us. And believe me, in the West Midlands we've never forgotten that. And I can assure Paul tonight, and all of you, that our man is going to get a massive, massive support in the West Midlands. So we're with you. West Midlands and the North West are united on this one. He is our man. During that time when I was with Paul and we were campaigning, we actually got to a point where it led up to the 2014 European elections, and we did have a bit of a running joke that we were a double act. We must have done, it was the Brexit coach, and we went through the West Midlands and into the North West. There's some fantastic memories in the North West of places and people who will remember from that time. I went behind the bar, one place, which is unusual for me to be that side of the bar. But then coach stop at a pub, where we had a very entertaining night after some hard work. And I can tell you, at every step of the way on that tour, who was leading the way? Who was there, first of all, talking to the people? Who was there, first of all, backing us up? Who was there, first of all, when we had problems with Labour activists and other unsavoury kinds trying to stop us? Who was there at every step when there was a difficulty? And who was there first to the bar to get the drinking going? And this is a guy who I've got to know both socially and through work. I can honestly say to all of you, and so many faces I know and I've spoken to and I've got to know in this neck of the woods, you know it already. But it's a real pleasure for me. When Paul picked up the phone to me and said he'd like me to come and speak, well, yes, where, how long, it's a pleasure. This is a man who will lead us. We'll all have no problem with it. The party will unite. He'll bring us together. It may come as a surprise due to my cuddly and soft demeanour, but some people think I'm a hardliner. I don't know why they think that. But I know that this is a man right in the centre of the party, right in the centre of opinion, and he'll bring us all together. And I know that it's going to be a great success. So you watch. From when the massive score comes in and Paul's won, from that point onwards, you watch our party grow. You watch our electoral success grow. You watch our confidence grow. Because there will be a man who brings all of the best of our talents.
Certainly in the next election. When Paul and I spoke about 18 months ago, he made it very clear that even though the referendum was going to be very important to us, that the real time for UKIP was 2020. And I believe that. I believe that we can win seats in the North West. that we have some great people, that we have a great team, great branches, and in Bolton in particular, it's a model of how to do things, representing the local people, getting their issues out, and that's what we need for local politics. UKIP represents an area where in lots of places the Tories cannot get to. The only alternative to Labour, and they are very conscious of it, even though they still don't listen to the voters, is the North West. So tonight we have the next opportunity, a very exciting opportunity, and a huge challenge for our leader. But the man that is hopefully going to take this mantle forward is without question the best candidate. He will unify the party like no other candidate can. He will bring together all the factions. There is no left and right, there is only right. And the way to go forward is with Paul Nuttall. Our first speaker tonight himself was one of the leadership candidates in the first leadership challenge, and he has very gracefully bowed out now to offer his support wholeheartedly to Paul. So I'd like you to give a warm welcome to Mr. Bill Etheridge.
Well, hello everyone. Hello. Right, lots of familiar faces. Many of you I've met before on various occasions, campaigning around 15 or 20 speeches together, all around the country. And I got used to being his warm-up man, so this is not unusual. But I'm quite glad that Peter's in the middle of us, because it's always, you know, I don't like to be the one who's immediately compared to him, because when he brings out the thunder, it's hard to match. But working together, I got to know him so well. And his heart is with this party and its activists. He's not a man who does this because he cares about position or because of his personal ambition. He doesn't tune into the television and think, oh, I was on the telly today, what do I look like? Let's freeze frame it, have a look. Like some others may. He doesn't do that. What Paul does is he thinks what's best for our activists or what's best for our party. That's why he's standing now. And that's the kind of commitment and the kind of heart that we need now more than ever. And he is wonderful for that. And the times when we've worked together and I learned so much, and then I got elected. And we went out to Brussels together. And again, when all of us new MEPs were out there, who could we turn to? Who was there to help us? An honest friend, always there. The then deputy leader, the man we could turn to. If we'd done something right, or if we'd done something wrong, he'd give us an honest appraisal. He'd be there for us to help us out in the mire. Believe me, and this may come as a surprise, but I've dropped 1 or 2 cops. and during that time, when you need a strong friend to back you up, who was there? Paul Nuttall. Always. There were times when I thought, you know, the world was going to fall in. Who was the first phone call? Paul Nuttall. So we've got a good man here. And I'll tell you another little story about him. Because many of the faces I know from here will remember a coach tour that we did. And we had a coach that was all the many MEPs' faces.